War in Iran continues, but a new conflict has started as well. This one between Donald Trump, the American president, and Keir Starmer, who for some reason is still the British Prime Minister. The end of the special relationship? I think so. Find out why right now here on Lembit Opik Live.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, you gotta work. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
And to think that man's our Prime Minister. Welcome to Lembit Opik Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is as best we can. We try to make sure that the facts are right, and we will express our opinions too, but we won't dress them up as facts. And that's why hopefully you can trust us on everything from international foreign policy through to the economy. But today we're going to be talking about Iran and the ongoing conflict. I think everyone's using the word war now between Israel and America on one side and Iran on the other. You will probably have seen the almost wall-to-wall coverage of this, which indicates that this is expected to continue for about 4 or 5 weeks. Though no one's really very clear what the objective is. There's a hint of regime change, a very strong hint of it. They actually killed the supreme leader of Iran in the process. But beyond that, what? And what of the relationship between the United Kingdom and America? A war of words appears to have erupted there, with Donald Trump saying, and I'm quoting him, that the British Prime Minister Starmer has not been helpful, and that Donald Trump is very disappointed with the UK's contribution. Meanwhile, we have some kind of complete intellectual paralysis on the Labour side. I heard Darren Jones, if you're watching this live now, Darren Jones on BBC Radio 4 this morning, unable to tell us whether the government thought that Donald Trump's initiative in Iran was legal or not. It was an absolute meltdown of an interview. This leads me to believe that we don't really have a government with a rudder at the moment, a very dangerous thing at a period of war. So what's going on? Who's in the right? And is this the end of the special relationship? Joining me now is a great commentator on these matters, Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. Good day to you, Marcus. I hope you're doing better than the British government.
Thank you, Lembit, as always, for having me on. As regards to the British government, well, as you know, and as your audience knows, I do not refer to the British government. I always refer to the British ruling elite. And on this occasion, the British ruling elite, demonstrating its intelligence, is keeping Britain out of the war. Yeah, well, in what way, though? Because we've had both answers from Keir Starmer initially. Initially, Keir Starmer said that America could not use British bases. And then within 48 hours, he said they could. But we've got Donald Trump now saying he doesn't regard the behavior of Keir Starmer as helpful. Well, it is inconceivable that the Americans, from day one of their war against the Iranian people, have not been using British bases in the Eastern Mediterranean and British airspace in the Eastern Mediterranean. So that's the way we need to see it. The relationship between America and Britain has two faces. It has the official face and it has the unofficial face. So, as I said, the Americans from day one have been using the British military bases in the Eastern Mediterranean. Okay, so that does sound rather like a contradiction, because Keir Starmer was quite clear he wouldn't let the Americans use British bases. Then he was quite clear that he would. Are you saying that
what Keir Starmer says is irrelevant, and the Americans will do whatever they want with British bases anyway.
Yes, Keir Starmer is, of course, irrelevant. As I've said time and time again, he is merely a puppet. The British ruling elite, whilst, of course, they will support America and Israel's war against Iran, they are clever enough to understand that Britain should not get involved in it, because this war is completely and utterly illegal. It is a unilateral war. It violates the United Nations Charter. It violates international law. Moreover, war can only be legal if the United Nations Security Council authorizes it. But recently, Lembit, the Americans, such as the American Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, has said that he does not care about international law. He does not care about international institutions. He said that America will do what it wants, when it wants, wherever it wants. And I say this, it's good to have America out in the open, because America has been behaving like this ever since the 1990s, but they never admitted it. They did it behind the scenes. And of course, anyone with even half a brain realized in the 1990s and onwards that America does whatever it wants in the world. But now we have an administration in Washington which openly admits that. And of course, the British ruling elite do not want to be publicly associated with that. But of course, in reality, the British ruling elite will be supporting the Americans, be it against Iran or anywhere else in the world. The British state is based on an illusion, the illusion being that the British state is a beacon for freedom, a beacon for human rights, a beacon for international law, a beacon for civilization. That is an illusion, but the British ruling elite have to maintain it. That is why they've instructed their puppet, Starmer, to say that Britain will not take part in the war against Iran.
But he changed his position. Let's just talk about the legal side of this. As I said in my introduction, Darren Jones, a Labour minister, who, well, that's him there, in fact. I always think he looks extraordinarily scruffy for a minister. Maybe that's just me being old-fashioned, but I like my ministers to look a little bit smarter than that. But anyway, maybe Boris Johnson set a bad precedent there. But he couldn't answer the question on BBC Radio 4's Today programme if they thought the war had a legal basis or not. He literally couldn't answer it. I think he doesn't know. I actually just don't think he's got the experience like so many Labour MPs and ministers. He's just not qualified for the job. So he must have been asked in this 15-minute interview 8 times whether there was a legal basis, and he couldn't answer it. Now, is that because you're saying the ruling elite, but whoever the paymasters are, is that because they know it's illegal, they don't want to admit it, or they literally haven't got a clue?
No, it's the former. The British ruling elite know this war is illegal. They know there is no legal basis for it. Someone like Darren Jones, for example, is an idiot. He knows nothing about international law. He knows nothing about the history and politics of the Middle East. He knows nothing about the mosaic nature of ethnicities and religions of the Middle East. So on a personal level, he does not know. But the British ruling elite do know that the war is illegal. And the reasons for America going to war with the Iranian people changes as each day goes past. So first of all, the reason was to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Then it was to prevent Iran from striking America, from striking American military bases in the Persian Gulf. Then it was to bring freedom to the Iranian people. Now we hear from Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, that Israel essentially forced America's hand and made America go to war with Iran. So, of course, none of those reasons whatsoever are legal. And the British ruling elite knows international law like the back of its hand. And that is why they instructed Starmer to say that Britain will stay out.
You're saying you're sure this war is illegal. Just tell us again. You did imply it. Let's be clear for the viewers why you think that.
First of all, a war can only be legal if it is authorized by the United Nations Security Council. Every member of the United Nations has signed up to the United Nations Charter and international law in general. I understand that the United Nations has been infiltrated over many decades by very dark, malignant forces. But the concept of the United Nations is a good one, is a sound one. And again, war is only legal if it has been authorized by the United Nations Security Council. And the United Nations Security Council is made up of 5 permanent members: America, Russia, Britain, France, and China. And this war has not been authorized by the Security Council. It is a war which has been taken on by America and Israel. It has no legal basis. And even under American law, American domestic law, it is illegal. We now hear that the Pentagon has told senior congressmen and senior congresswomen that Iran posed no threat to America, to the American people, to American interests, and to American military bases in the Persian Gulf. And I strongly suspect, Lembit, as time goes by, that we will start to hear that the American chiefs of staff warned Trump not to go to war with Iran.
I actually heard Yvette Cooper, who's the bumbling foreign minister, absolutely, in my view, unqualified to do the job, yesterday, if you're watching this live, yesterday, trying to explain that it was right for Britain to take defensive action because our bases are under threat from Iran. But if you think about the circularity of that, if we weren't involved at all, then I doubt Iran would waste its limited military resources on hitting us. So as far as I could tell, the argument was like this. We've got involved in this war in Iran. That makes us a target. Therefore, it's right for us to target Iran. We participated with the aggressor, at least in the short term. And I just can't see how any serious, sane person can think that's a justification for us being involved, legal or illegal. If you hit somebody and they hit you back, you can't say that the original punch was in self-defense, can you?
Well, there's no evidence to say that Iran was behind the 2 drone attacks on the British military bases in Cyprus. Indeed, the evidence indicates that the 2 drones came from Lebanon. So as it currently stands, Iran has not struck British interests or British military bases. But of course, as you say, there is a logical argument. If you do stay out of this war, then Iran will not target you. If you take Spain, for example, now the Spanish Prime Minister is, in my opinion, an abhorrent human being, absolutely vile. He is absolutely insistent on digital ID becoming mandatory in Spain. But I will take the good from anyone, including Trump. He announced, the Spanish Prime Minister announced, that America will not use Spain, will not use Spanish maritime waters, will not use Spanish airspace as part of its war against Iran. Therefore, Spain is not a target for Iran. But having said that, Iran's missiles do not have the ability to reach Spain. I believe the furthest west they can go is somewhere around Egypt. But still, if you keep your country out of an illegal war, then your country will not be a target.
Just a quick one. Let's get this Marco Rubio comment out of the way. Here's what he said. U.S. strikes in Iran triggered by Israel's plan to launch attack, Rubio says. Democrats are disturbed by rationale that Trump ordered preemptive strikes out of concern about Tehran retaliation. It does seem that Rubio was quite clear, and this is something I speculated about at the time, that Israel would try to bounce America into it. Where I was wrong is I thought that America would resist it. I thought that Trump would keep Netanyahu on a lead. You yourself have said previously Netanyahu needs military action to continue to avoid various prosecutions that he's facing in Israel. But America has been wagged. The dog of America has been wagged by the tail of Israel.
Yes, it has. But I think we need to see this war either in the context or partly in the context of the Epstein files, because clearly the Israelis are exploiting that to their benefit. In no way does Iran pose a threat to America or the American people. If Iran does, then why has Trump or Rubio or Hegseth not made public evidence pertaining to the alleged Iranian threat? It would not be in the interests of Iran to go to war with America. It's as simple as that. Why would any country go to war willingly with a military superpower? It is not in the interests of America to go to war with Iran, but it is in the interests of Israel. Israel seeks the destruction of Iran. Israel is also pursuing greater Israel. The Israelis have now invaded Lebanon. Parts of Lebanon are coveted by the Israelis as part of greater Israel. So again, why did Trump go to war? The reasons which he cites change on a daily basis. Again, I submit the war has to be seen either in the context or partly in the context of the Epstein files.
Thank you. Stay with us. You're watching me, Lembit Opik, here on Unprecedented TV with Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos as we try to figure out what's going on in Iran. Is it a legal war? Why couldn't Darren Jones, the Labour minister, answer that question? You'd think that if you're a minister of state for the Labour government, you would be able to answer yes or no to whether the Labour government thinks this war is legal. Let's remember, they got themselves into tremendous hot water when Tony Blair lied to the country and took us into an illegal war in Iraq. Before we go any further, though, please do like and subscribe. Go to @Unprecedented TV on YouTube. Doesn't cost you anything, and you'll get a huge bunch of shows there, ever expanding bunch. One of them is Claire Dyer with Dire Consequences. That's Dire Consequences with Claire Dyer. She finds local stories of national concern and courageously campaigns upon them. With me still, Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. I promised we would talk about the special relationship. Now, this seems to be horrendously damaged. Now, this is what has been in the headlines, pretty much just coming out while we're on air. Trump lambasts Starmer again and says UK-US special relationship is not what it was. It's very sad. We love the UK, US president said, as row deepens over Britain's involvement in Iran conflict. It does seem that there's huge damage going on. That's not the only headline. Well, there's another one. Trump blasts Starmer's not helpful over Iran and hints that he has damaged the special relationship. The president claimed other countries in Europe had been great, unlike the UK. Now, it seems to me, leaving aside the nuances, the very important ones of the legality of the action in Iran, that Starmer has completely ruined the relationship with Trump, because Starmer is not intellectually agile enough. He doesn't have, in my view, a philosophical consistency, and he just hasn't got any charisma. A special relationship which has lasted for a century is busted. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to make an opaque situation all the more opaque. The British ruling elite despise Trump. They tried to bring Trump down during Trump's first term in office. So, does the British ruling elite, along with the American deep state, support this war against Iran? I don't know, Lembit. I think it's a very difficult situation. The very difficult situation to read. The American deep state never went to war with Iran. Of course, the American deep state always looked for an opportunity to destroy the Iranian government, to destroy the Iranian revolution, to return Iran to how it was during the days of the Shah, namely a colony of America and Britain's. But the American deep state did not go to war with Iran, and yet Trump has. So again, this takes me back to what I submitted earlier. Why is the British ruling elite keeping Britain out of the war? The British ruling elite, as I said, knows the war is illegal. But at the same time, the British ruling elite has no love for Trump. Trump has inflicted a lot of reputational damage on the West, has inflicted a lot of reputational damage on NATO. So it could be that the British ruling elite, whilst like the American deep state, would very much like to see the Iranian government destroyed and Iran returned to how it was during the days of the Shah, namely a vassal state of the West, nonetheless would like to see Trump destroy himself. So it's an opaque situation.
Yeah, but okay. It seems to me, though, I've never known in my lifetime, let alone my political career, an American president being so overtly dismissive of a British prime minister. Not helpful. And Trump says he's very disappointed and implies that Starmer's damaged the special relationship. I think that even if what you say is correct, the fact that an American president is now repeatedly, regularly, frequently saying things like this about the British Prime Minister shows a total lack of respect. That Starmer has ruined the status of the British premiership. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but whatever you think of Trump, he's not even this rude about Vladimir Zelensky.
I don't think Trump hates Starmer per se. I think Trump hates the British ruling elite because he knows that the British ruling elite tried to destroy him. He knows that. He's aware of that. And I'm not making any defense now for Trump. He is a war criminal, a colossal war criminal with what he is doing against Iran. But why is Trump doing this? Trump, I strongly suspected that Trump had a suspicion at the very least that Britain would not join the war because he knows the British ruling elite do not like him. So I think the focus really needs to be on Trump. Why has he taken America to war against Iran? Why are his reasons changing on a daily basis? It is Israel factor. The American people have, to a very large extent, woken up to the reality that Israel controls Washington, D.C., controls Congress, exerts massive influence and power across the whole of America. American servicemen are dying in this war against Iran. And I would say this, more American servicemen have died than what the official figure currently says. So why has Trump done this? That's the question.
Let's look at we'll leave that question hanging to an extent now. We'll look at the war zone. Iran seems to have struck out. This is slightly different to what you said before. They've struck out against some countries that really didn't want America to go to war. And it's understandable. I think Iran's trying to strong arm an end to the conflict. But this could go on much longer than the 4 to 5 weeks. It seems to me that even if the hot war ends in that time, there's a prospect of all kinds of other things. The Straits of Hormuz, which are really narrow and really important to the moving of oil and gas, that's just a perpetual target potentially for Iran now. They can increase energy prices and wage an economic war. How long do you think this is going to go on?
Trump has opened a Pandora's box. People in America and in Britain do not understand how complex the Middle East is. They do not understand how fragile the Middle East is. They do not understand how volatile the Middle East is. The average person in America and Britain, to varying degrees, is indoctrinated regarding Iran. They know nothing about Iran. They know nothing about the Iranian people. They know nothing about day-to-day life in Iran. What they think they know stems from what they have been told by their politicians and their mainstream journalists. A Pandora's box has been opened. The Iranians are striking Arab Gulf countries because those Arab Gulf countries are home to American military bases, and those American military bases are striking Iran. So that is why the Iranians are striking them. So, for example, the American Navy base in Bahrain has virtually been destroyed. There is another aspect to this. Shia populations in the Middle East are now rising up. We see that, of course, in Lebanon. We see it also in Iraq. We see it also in Bahrain. Most of the population of Bahrain is Shia, which means they are sympathetic to Iran. So as we speak, Shias in Bahrain, again, who constitute the majority of Bahrain's population, are attacking, physically attacking members of the Bahraini military, because the Bahraini government is Sunni, and therefore most of its military force will be Sunni. So you can see that an almighty war is on the horizon in the Middle East, and that is because Trump opened a Pandora's box. That said, Trump could avert the region going up in one almighty fireball. He could declare victory. He could say America has achieved its objectives, and he has instructed the American military to cease operations against Iran. If he was to do that, then of course Israel would stop, and a catastrophe on a biblical scale would be averted. And it is possible that Trump could do that. I'm not saying he will do that in the next few days, but it is possible that the more carnage which is brought about because of this war could result in Trump having to call an end to it. The Iranians, while having incurred very significant damage themselves, have inflicted tremendous damage on Israel. They have inflicted tremendous damage on American military bases. People should be aware, Lembit, that for nearly 40 years now, ever since the end of the Iraq-Iran war, Iran has been preparing for this day. Iran has been preparing for war with America. The Iranians have been studying the American army, the American Air Force, the American Navy. They have been studying their vulnerabilities, their weaknesses in the Persian Gulf for 4 decades now. The Iranians have developed a very large, powerful, sophisticated military force. They have developed some of the most potent and advanced ballistic missiles in the world. And they have manufactured thousands upon thousands of these missiles. And on top of that, the Iranians have a very large and powerful paramilitary force. The Iranian government, the Iranian revolution, as it stands at the moment, is not threatened by the air onslaught by the Americans and the Israelis. The only time it would be threatened is if the Americans were to launch a ground invasion. And to do that, the Americans would have to amass something like 500,000 American soldiers to invade Iran. They will not do that. Why? Because thousands upon thousands of American soldiers would die in that war. Millions upon millions of ordinary Iranians would do exactly what they did during the Iraq-Iran war. They would volunteer for the front line to fight against America, including women. People in Britain and America, Lembit, they don't understand what true devotion to one's country is. Men and women in Iran are ready and willing to die for their country against America.
Let's talk about this. We've only got a few minutes left, but some predict a terrible fail for Donald Trump. Here's one. For Donald Trump, Operation Epic Fury will go down as an epic fail. This is suggested by The Independent. With America's unwise excursion into Iran now threatening to engulf the wider Middle East, nothing can spare the president from the worst decision he's made. You seem to think this is correct, that it's a catastrophically bad decision.
Absolutely. We see now what is happening in the most volatile part of the world. Striking Iran was always going to have enormous ramifications, not just for the region, but for the wider world. That is why the Middle East is the most volatile region in the entire world. And yes, America is a military superpower, but even superpowers have limitations. The American military arsenal is already severely depleted because of the vast amount of weapons which it sent to Ukraine. So yes, the Americans can keep on manufacturing weapons, but can they manufacture them at the pace which is required to continue the war with Iran? Again, Iran has been preparing for this day for 40 years. And as we talk, the Iranians have not used their most sophisticated ballistic missiles. And yet what they have used thus far has inflicted enormous damage on Israel, has inflicted very serious damage on American military bases. As I said, America's Navy base in Bahrain is virtually destroyed. American aircraft have been brought down. Yes, Washington officially says that those aircraft were brought down through friendly fire. Well, that is difficult to believe, that in the space of just a few minutes, several American aircraft were brought down consecutively by friendly fire. That is very suspicious. But yes, Trump has opened a Pandora's box. He has done this for Israel, but he, more than any American president before him, is beholden to the Israelis. And one of the reasons pertains to the Epstein files. Iran will fight to the death. Man and woman will fight to the death. will the American people is the American people ready and prepared to fight to the death for Israel? I think not.
Two more quick questions. The Pentagon. There's the Pentagon. I was actually next to it a few weeks ago. You're saying that it probably didn't advise this military action. Why?
I strongly suspect that the American military leadership, the chiefs of staff, are aware of how powerful the Iranian military is. They are also aware that the Iranian government, contrary to what British and mainstream media says, has immense support within Iran, immense support. Therefore, I believe at some point it will come out, that it will be leaked, that the American military leadership warned Iran not to go to war with Iran.
You mean warned America? You mean
it has no love for Iran?
You mean warned America not to go to war with Iran? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I strongly believe that.
Yeah. Last question then. We had Trump talking a lot about the Chagos Islands at one point. It seems to me he was probably, there we are, Diego Garcia, he wants to use the base there. I think he got interested in it because he was planning to use it. And that's why he's been blowing hot and cold on this. At one point he said that he didn't have an issue with America giving it away. And then suddenly he got very angry about it and said it was a terrible mistake. I wonder, I actually think it's a terrible mistake. I just think it's crazy to pay another country to take your territory or territory that you've got. Why does Donald Trump blow hot and cold on big issues like this?
I think what you've just said, Lembit, as an explanation is more than plausible. But at the same time, the Americans have enough bases in the region and in the wider world to continue its illegal war against Iran. The question is, do they have the resources to continue this at the pace that the war is going at? The Trump and Hegseth can say that the hardest hits are yet to come. They can say that they don't care what the American people think about the war. They can say that they don't care about international law. Well, sooner or later, they will start to care. And quite frankly, their body behavior tells me and tells a lot of other people a very different picture. Trump and Hegseth do not look comfortable in all of the press conferences which they have given. They can't ignore the American people. They can't ignore people like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, because these people have vast support from the American people. And as I said, the death toll, the American military death toll, will continue to increase and is a lot higher than the official figure. And the American military know, and I sincerely believe they know, that Iran will fight to the last drop of Iranian blood, as they did during the Iraq-Iran war. Iranians are not like British people. They're not like American people. If one American soldier dies, Lembit, if one British soldier dies, then the whole of the country goes into mourning. The Iranians are prepared to die on a massive scale to prevent Iran becoming an American and Israeli colony. They are prepared for a long-term war. Is the American people prepared for this war? Are they prepared to die for Israel? I think not.
Final question. Potentially, I've for a long time said that the balance of power in the world is going from the north and the west to the south and the east. I would say that the people in that picture, in fact, the people in the BRICS countries can sit down and watch the depletion of American firepower, very much as you described, and think this can only do us good. I've been told by one military commentator that they're using 1,000 Patriot missiles a day. The Americans using, or Israel and America using 1,000 Patriot missiles a day, valued at between $3 and $5 million each, to try to shoot down drones, which cost about $7,000 each. So they're just blowing, let's say, take a middle line, $4,000 million a day on their Patriot system. And that isn't sustainable.
This is what I believe, Lembit, is the military strategy of the Iranians. I believe they have developed a vast amount of cheaper ballistic missiles, and they have fired them en masse against Israel and American military bases, not only to inflict grievous damage on Israel and American military bases, but also to deplete Israeli and American Patriot missiles. Once the Iranians have fully achieved that objective, then they will strike Israel and American military bases with their most sophisticated of ballistic missiles. That is why the worst is yet to come for Israel and the American military. We also know, for a fact, that the Americans are starting to redeploy their forces from East Asia, for example, from South Korea, in order to beef up their military presence in the Persian Gulf. And I am talking about not troops, not battleships. I'm talking about air defense systems. I'm talking about Patriot missiles, because as you correctly said, they are using them on a daily basis on a colossal scale, and they can't replace them at the pace that they are using them. So I think that Trump now has walked into a deadly situation, and the Iranian military are simply keeping to the strategy which I just now outlined, and it is paying dividends to the Iranians.
Thank you so much. That's Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. You can have your say as well. You can continue the dialogue with me on X at Lembit Opik. Also, please do like and subscribe. Costs you nothing. Takes you 30 seconds at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. I'll add only one thought now. This war seems to have been confirmed as an Israeli initiative, with Marco Rubio, very senior American politician, saying that America followed in because they knew Israel was going to take the action. A massive drain on resources, cheap drones being sent towards Western targets, and very expensive Patriot missiles being used to shoot them down. Dr. Papadopoulos says the idea is to draw out all those defensive weapons and then hit the West hard. If you're watching this live, you'll have heard Donald Trump saying that the biggest hits against Iran are yet to come. What does he mean by that? Well, time will tell. We've also been told that this will go on for 4 to 5 weeks. But in fact, in my experience of life, once you set a conflict running, there is so much chaos in it, you don't really know the outcome. All I know is that the United Kingdom sits lamely by with a drifting government that doesn't even know if the war is legal and has damaged the special relationship with America as a result. If nothing else, I suspect that as long as Labour's in charge, there will be no special relationship between Britain and America that has social, political, and economic consequences. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Do go and subscribe and like, please, at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. And you'll find hundreds and hundreds of shows there, all of which are in the archive. And I have to say, if you look at the past, they're a pretty good prediction of what has turned out in other areas. Perhaps we're right again. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages.